Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into today's edition of the Royals Rundown podcast presented by Royals Review. I am Jacob Milham, joined as usual by my co-host, Jeremy Greco. Jeremy, I'm not going to lie, I'm looking at myself on the screen as I'm doing the introduction here, and it is still very off-putting at the fact that I have had to shave. And it has been a while since I've been clean shaven, and I still don't like it.
Yeah, funny story. I recently bought an electric razor because I had been just using a beard trimmer on the lowest setting and just being like, yeah, just a little bit of stubble's not going to hurt anybody. I work from home. Who cares? And then I was like, man, because I have sleep apnea, so I wear a CPAP mask, and sometimes the stubble can be obnoxious with the CPAP mask. So I was like, let me buy a razor. So I bought like a $30 razor on Amazon and I shaved my face and it was great, except it scratched my neck up like nobody's business. So that's why I didn't spend like $200 or something on a nice razors because I was afraid that was what was going to happen. It's like,
Yeah,
there's a
that's
reason I quit shaving.
Well, and I think you just rediscovered it in the most
Yeah.
painful way possible. Yeah, that is.
Yeah.
I've always just been a razor guy. I never liked the electric razors. It was never quite short enough to where I could get away with it with the military. My
The
facial hair trims, I'm pretty dark.
my face looks like I have stubble even when it's completely clean shaven. When I used to work in a grocery store and they had a no beards policy, I used to get in trouble all the time. They're like, "You didn't shave." I'm like, "I did though. This is just what my face looks like." And they're like, "You better shave next time or else." And
Yep.
then or else never happened because I kept showing up to work, which was something that they were having trouble getting people to do.
Yeah, usually, just like in baseball, availability is the best ability, and that
Sometimes.
that applies to jobs too. All right, well, we do have some Kansas City Royals baseball to talk about today.
Right, baseball.
Yeah, baseball, not beards, baseball. I'm gonna be completely transparent with listeners out there. A good bit of this episode is gonna be talking about this CBA proposal from MLB that came out just before we started recording. We will also touch on September roster expansions are just right around the corner. Connor Moylan had a pretty good list put together on RoyalsReview.com of who could or couldn't be called up. So I highly suggest you go check that out. But we will be talking about that as well. The headline news for the Kansas City Royals. We all knew the winning streak had to end eventually. 9-game winning streak out the window. The Royals lose the second game against the Toronto Blue Jays, get blanked in a bullpen game 3-0. But I mean, hey, I'm of the mindset I'm just glad it happened. Like, I would rather have a 9-game winning streak and go 9-1 your last 10. Not many teams can do that throughout the entire season, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And before I go any further, Jacob, I think I've just discovered something about your microphone.
what's that?
You're talking into the side of it, and it picks you up from the top of it.
Does it really?
Yeah.
That is interesting. Well, you know what? Let me just try this real quick. How's
Oh,
that
that
sound,
sounds so
Jeremy?
much better.
Really? Okay, interesting.
Yeah, that explains why every time you even so much as glanced away from the microphone, I couldn't hear you at all.
Well, this is going to be a little awkward because I don't know where to.
Oh,
Yeah.
you
Does it
sound so good. I just had an eargasm.
does it even sound good right here?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll just keep it right there then.
Yeah, we gotta either get you a new microphone or a new stand or something, bud.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Winning streak, 9 out of 10. Pretty good. I did post a question this week for Royals Review asking people, you know, how long would the winning streak need to last for you to start dreaming about the playoffs again? And I was very particular about that question, knowing that people would still misinterpret it as, do you believe in the playoffs again? Which, of course, is not what I was asking, but it is what it is. We live in a world where a congressperson is literally saying we need to put pictures in the documents so that people can follow more easily. And no, thank you.
Yeah. No, thank you. I'm good.
Anyway, but yeah, so my answer to that question was they need to finish out August. That would have given them a 14-game winning streak, and it would have meant that they need a 17-7 September to finish 500, which is almost a 750 winning percentage in September to finish 500. But a 17-7 stretch is very doable, especially if you're a team that just had a 14-game winning streak. Now, if they can win the final four of August, they would just need to go 18-6, which would be a true 750 winning percentage in September. So if they can win the final four, I'll dream a little. But if they even lose one more, it gets really hard to even dream.
Yeah, listen, we all know the longest odds for the Royals of making the playoffs, and I think like that's why I'm appreciating this run so much, right? Because like if this is the positive blip of the Royals in-game stuff from this season, like I'm sure, hey, Bobby Witt Jr., he is right. He's right in the AL MVP conversation, if not the leader. I still consider him the leader, but maybe
Mm.
that's me putting too much value on defense and on base running.
The thing is, it's a voting thing,
Yeah.
and voters like myself love the offensive stats, and Yordan Alvarez's offensive stats are just so much better than Bobby's right now. We need Bobby he had like a nuclear week on that homestand. He
Yeah.
needs to do that for the rest of the year almost to really have a chance, I think.
Okay. Okay.
Especially considering how far the Royals are out of the playoffs and that the Astros are still fighting for a playoff spot. I I can't say he's the favorite right now.
Okay, and that's fine. That's fine. But like, I'm also, hey, I think Jac Caglianone has a good shot at an AL outfield Silver Slugger award. It's right now amongst qualified outfielders, he leads them all in slugging percentage, and he's in top 5 in several other key statistics. Like those are things that we could focus on once Game 162 is in the books. Once we have the full resume of what the 2026 season is. For in-season stuff, we've just been getting fed like this like mediocre chili, right? It's like it's not seasoned, it doesn't taste great, but it's chili. But it's baseball, and I love chili and I love baseball, so I'm gonna eat some of the chili at least. Right now, it feels like I'm getting some better tasting stuff. I'm getting some high-end stuff. What's up?
What about Skyline chili? Would you eat Skyline
I'm
chili?
I would try it. I've never, like, had the desire, like, I really wanna try Skyline chili. Like, it looks like slop. It
It
does.
does. I'm very particular about my chili, gotta be honest with you. So, I'm just a picky eater in general, though.
Okay.
What was the question?
Something about chili and baseball. No, but I'm trying to, like, make this a G-rated version of getting a bleep sandwich for the entire
I don't eat that
season.
chili for sure.
I don't either. That's why I don't wanna talk about it. It's around dinner time here, goodness sakes. And, like, right now, I felt satiated as a Royals fan in this winning streak. I
Yeah,
felt like this was great baseball, and it really was.
it was great baseball, and, last night, they got. It
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
That's one of the bizarre things about the bullpen game is sometimes there's the Russian roulette version of the bullpen game where every guy you pull out, does he have a bullet or not? And then I think what the Blue Jays did last night was actually really smart, which was, here's a reliever, he's staying out there until he doesn't have bullets, and then we're pulling him. And they left their relievers out there, and they kept finding guys with bullets, and they had bullets for a long time, and what can you do? It was I also watching that game, the Royals hit the ball hard a lot early on and right into guys' gloves. And I know that this was a common refrain early in the season and people don't want to hear about it. They want to hear about hits, not hard hit balls. But I can't watch that game and be like, well, the Royals sucked. I watched
Yeah.
that game and be like, the other team pitched pretty well, and when they weren't pitching well, the Royals were hitting it hard just right at guys. It happens. That's baseball. So I I'm not mad. I'll still watch tonight's game.
Yeah.
I've got a new Jack graphic that I finally made up. I've been trying for forever to commission someone to make this for me. I thought I had somebody who was going to do it, and then he kind of dropped contact with me. So I finally made my own. It doesn't look as good as if I'd been able to commission someone, but I'm very excited to share it on social media, and I need Jac to do something other than strike out a bunch, which is what he did last night.
Yeah, unfortunately, 0 for 4 return to the lineup for Jac Caglianone. It's, it happens, especially
This
when you're out of rhythm.
It kind of feels like, and I looked at the numbers, and it's not exactly how this went, but remember when he was so hot in June, and then his shoulder got hurt, and then he came back and he wasn't as good, and then he started to heat up, and then now he hurt his ankle, and now he comes back and he's not playing well. It kind of feels like, boy, he's got to be on rhythm. Also makes you wonder, obviously he's not as good against lefties as he is against righties. They showed the splits last night.
Yeah.
He's playable against lefties, certainly, but we were all understanding of the Royals, or at least I was understanding of the Royals not playing him against lefties early on because they were trying to build up his confidence, trying to give him the best opportunities to succeed, because confidence was obviously a real issue for him last year. That was obvious watching the games. The Royals talked about it. But I think the guy might just need to be in a rhythm to succeed. And the Royals let him try. The thing is, Royals played him every day, even while he was awful last season, and it didn't really work. But they put him in the lineup every day. They let him hit against lefties, and he went off. Then he had a couple days off, took him a little bit to come back, and then he went off again. So hopefully it just takes him a couple of days, and he goes off for a third time and finishes out the year. That's the thing you're talking about. Jac potentially winning a Silver Slugger. He's the Royals' best or second best hitter. He keeps trading places with Bobby in terms of OPS. So if anybody deserves a Silver Slugger, he's probably one of the guys up there. I think Bobby probably does too. Shortstop is not especially strong in the American League unless they want to give it to the Detroit kid. He's played more third, and he's played a bunch of positions. You might give him the utility one.
Gotcha.
McGonigal.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could see Jac doing that, but that's also like, if this is what Jac is doing, and we love Jac, but he's had 2 really hot months and then a couple not so hot months. So he's been kind of hot and cold. And if that's your guy that's like, well, our shortstop's hitting as well as he is, he deserves MVP. Well, it's hard to make that argument for me.
I gotcha. Hey, so we're talking about off rhythm with Caglianone. There are some guys who are coming off of the Kansas City Royals roster that we do need to talk about. So Michael Massey had that really rough looking play against the Blue Jays where he hit the back of his head, just whipped against the ground. Like he was obviously dazed. It's been a while since I've been concussed, but I was just like, oh yeah, like that, trying to just gather where you are in that moment. It's like I could see it on him. I felt like.
Would you believe I've never been concussed?
No, I would not.
I have run face first into metal poles no fewer than 3 times in my life. Full out run. Now, I'm not fast, but it was a full out run into it's long stories. I'm not going to tell them right now. I'll tell you later if you want. 3 different times. Never concussed myself.
Goodness gracious. Can you guess how many diagnosed concussions I've had?
I'm going to say 2.
I've had 5.
Jacob, that's too many.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's
Jacob,
a lot.
you're Troy Aikman.
Hold on now. I'll be Tony Romo, if anything, I guess. No, I'm kidding.
Was he the one that got all the concussions? I forget.
No, they're Dallas Cowboys quarterbacks. I don't give a shit about Dallas Cowboys quarterbacks, Jeremy.
I mean, that's fair.
I'll bleep the sandwich one, but talk about Dallas Cowboys. Full expletives. No, back to these roster moves. So Michael Massey, he's on the 7-day concussion list, retroactive to yesterday. And also going back off the 26-man roster is right-hander Mason Black, who was optioned to Triple-A Omaha. So who is taking their place? Well, infielder Josh Rojas, for his 3rd stint with the Royals, has been recalled from Triple-A Omaha. And also, southpaw Anthony Gose was selected from Omaha. So the former MLB outfielder is looking to make his first big league appearance since 2024. And also, he played quite a few games for the Toronto Blue Jays. So I wouldn't be surprised if he gets his first crack at it tonight. But Jeremy, there was another transaction in this group that they announced today that you were very despondent over.
Yeah, I'm despondent over all of them. but we could talk about that one first. Beck Way was returned from his rehab assignment, and that sounds like a good thing, but what it means is he started a rehab assignment and they said, oops, he's not actually healthy enough to be on a rehab assignment, which makes him approximately the 7 billionth Royal to be returned from a rehab assignment this year. Jacob, I don't like to call for people's jobs, and I'm not going to specifically call for someone's jobs, but this has got to stop.
Yeah.
The Royals they've done a terrible job with diagnosing injuries. They've done a terrible job with getting guys on the IL when they clearly should have been. They've done a terrible job with making sure guys are healthy before they put them on rehab assignments. And I'm fed up. This is as angry as people are about Q. Oh, and I'd like to talk about him a little bit later too, now that I just remembered that. That's how mad I am about the training staff. This is unacceptable. I am reminded of the time that the Chargers, I still talk about football for some reason, the Chargers head medical guy did an injection on their starting quarterback and deflated his lung.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
No.
And that's how I feel. I feel like the Royals are deflating everyone's lungs, especially mine.
Well, all the injuries and kind of the prolongment of a player's time away from the big league roster with seemingly inadequate player management once that player is injured and on the IL. Like that just takes the air out of guys coming off the IL. Like go ahead.
Did we talk about Nick Mears also got recalled from his rehab assignment?
Yes, finally diagnosed with thoracic outlet syndrome after dealing with shoulder issues since May 29th.
How long is it supposed to take you to diagnose that?
I don't know. I'm pretty sure not this long, though. Not
Put
like
him on a rehab assignment.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I really don't.
It's just it's infuriating. To go back to the other two transactions of Anthony Gose for Mason Black, and that's fine. Mason Black being demoted is fine. He was here to cover for Daniel Lynch. Well, Daniel Lynch couldn't necessarily pitch a lot of innings. I guess they've decided he can now. Not sure why they've decided that, because it took them 5 starts to get him to 60 pitches, but whatever. And even then he didn't go 5 innings, but whatever. Mason Black is fine going to the minor leagues. We've seen that, unfortunately, as excited as we were about him at times during the offseason, it didn't really pan out. Sucks. And then they put Michael Massey on the concussion list. That makes sense. I only question why they didn't do it sooner. Like, I guess it makes sense. If you don't have to put him on, you don't want to, you can backdate it. But it was pretty clear he was going to have to go on there. And the team just keeps acting like maybe we won't have to when we all know they're going to. But then calling up Josh Rojas and calling up Anthony Gose, 38-year-old 36-year-old Anthony Gose. And going back to signing 36-year-old Craig Kimbrel. Instead of calling up one of the many young relievers they acquired around and immediately after the deadline, or one of the young pitchers that's in their system, calling up these late 30s guys who are not going to be contributors on next year's team. Like, they were talking earlier this week on Kaufman Corner about could Craig Kimbrel come back next year, and I'm just like, why would either side want that? Why would the Royals want him back? He's not been that impressive. And why would Craig Kimbrel want to come back? Yes, right now he's getting save situations occasionally, when Nate Pearson and Steven Cruz are both unavailable. But there can't be any kind of plan where he's going to get them next year. If there is, you're not competing, Kansas City Royals. Well, so why are we looking at all these old guys? As Matthew Lamar has written multiple times, and as I've quoted him multiple times, because I believe it just as strongly as he does, if not more so, the superpower of a bad team is being able to look at young guys like a Brent Rooker or whoever, and determining if they're actually okay or if they've got something to contribute. And the Royals continue to not do that.
Yeah, that's a good point. back to Craig Kimbrel real quick. Like, number one, the guy at this point in his career, he's not getting signed anywhere where they're looking at him as the primary save option, or like he is the tertiary save option in a bad bullpen
I mean,
right
the
now.
A's might look at him.
Good Lord. I hope not. I really hope not. But to his credit, Kimbrel has not given up a run since he's been wearing a Kansas City Royals uniform. He's retired 13 of the 16 batters he's faced. Now, I don't know where the heck he is. He hasn't appeared since the 22nd with that save situation. He hasn't pitched since then.
He
But like,
probably has thoracic outlet UCL damage.
I hope not. I hope not. But I digress. This is not me making the case for him to come back. It is, however, I will admit, I had no expectations for the guy in a Royals uniform. I thought it was going to be a blow-up performance. I thought, what are we doing? We want to let games go, so we're going to put Craig Kimbrel, or the husk of the Pelican that is Craig Kimbrel, out on the mound and keep it rolling. That's not what they've done so far, or that's not what he has done so far. He has lived up to his end of the bargain. Now, something that I want to point out, this is something that Max pointed out in the Slack channel, is, hey, maybe these guys aren't getting called up because if they get added to the 40-man roster and there's a lockout, well, they're not going to be allowed to work out in team facilities.
And my counter argument, also in the Slack chat, was how many of these guys work out in the team facilities in the offseason anyway? Vinny kind of famously lives in Nashville because that's where his offseason workout facility is. Everything I've heard over the last couple of years when the Royals are not hitting is about how, well, they all have their own coaches that they work with. And we even talked about John Rave goes to was it Driveline he goes to, or was it the other one?
No,
Goes to Driveline. These guys aren't working out at the team facilities. I know, and can they really? They can't work out at the major league team facilities if they're in the minors and there's a lockout either. So, are guys working out at minor league facilities ever? I don't understand.
I don't understand it personally either. I just at least wanted to bring that up as we're at this point with the roster moves. Like, I hope that there is some sort of rule that is helping dictate this behavior. I hope that there is some sort of strategy for 2027 that is dictating this behavior, because it's not like Anthony Gose was lighting up Omaha. It's not like he was a shutdown guy.
And in fairness, Luke Little, Carlos Duran, etc., not dominating in Omaha either, though neither was Connor Thomas, and he's been perfectly satisfactory since he got called up to the team. But like, I just if I'm gonna see a guy who's probably not good, I'd rather see a young guy who's probably not good than a 36-year-old converted outfielder. I mean, come on.
Some stats on Gose so far this season in Omaha. He's made 39 appearances with the club, going 2 for 3 with a 4.89 ERA in that span. However, in August, he has only given up 2 earned runs in 7 innings pitched. Of course, like I said, he has spent 3 different MLB seasons as a pitcher with Cleveland. Okay, he only made 31 appearances with them, though. He made most of his appearances, 372 of them, as an outfielder, split between seasons in Toronto and with the Detroit Tigers. So that's why I think we'll probably see him play tonight at some point. It's like, hey, this is the franchise where you made your major league debut. So I think I would put that in the scorebook.
If my best guess as to why the Royals are doing this is because they think Anthony Gose gives them the best chance to win games right now. That's the only thing that makes sense to me, because like I said, you look at these other guys, they haven't been very good. I look at Anthony Gose, and when he's pitched, he gets a lot of strikeouts. He's old, but he strikes guys out, or at least he did last time he was in the big leagues, and didn't do a lot else good, but he struck guys out.
Yep.
So, but if the Royals are trying to win games right now, like, I know that the last episode I was all playoff hype train and asking questions about the playoffs, but I also was very specific that I didn't think it was actually going to happen. And the team has an obligation to not wear Royals colored glasses and not assume that they can win 37 of their last 40 or whatever ridiculous number it would take. And they need to this was a thing Dayton Moore did all the time, was give preference to veterans who he thought could help them win tonight's game, even when tonight's game didn't matter and next year's game did. And instead of looking at guys like Brent Rooker and being like, well, can you contribute to next year's team? He said, let me get a veteran in here. And manager, especially Mike Matheny, helped with that and said, let me put a veteran out there instead of trying out this young guy. And I don't think that JJ Piccolo is Dayton Moore light, or that he only does things Dayton Moore would do, but sometimes I look at him and I go, boy, that sure feels like Dayton Moore in a bad way.
Well, so you're talking about the managerial side of that. Like it takes two to tango here when a general manager or a Pobo can go out and acquire players, but it requires the manager to actually put the player in the game in that situation. And you were talking about some Royals fans are being frustrated with Q. What's up there?
I had the thought while I was watching Tuesday night's game that, boy, oh boy, people want Q fired, blah, 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 blah. The Blue Jays looked like a team where the manager should be fired. They were sloppy. They were not playing all out. They had a base runner making the worst base running decision imaginable to end the game. He just doesn't need to be at second base. There's no benefit to him being at second base in that situation. In fact, if he'd stayed at first, he could have taken second on defensive indifference.
Right.
And going to second on that play was either not thinking about the game, one of three things. He wasn't considering the game situation at all. He didn't understand the game situation, or he was trying to pad his own stats at the expense of the team.
Could be.
And I'm not going to criticize Nathan Lucas for that. I'll criticize Ryan Lefevre for not pronouncing Lucas's name correctly on multiple occasions, inexplicably. I get it. It's hard to remember how to pronounce all these guys' names, but it's literally his job. But I don't, to me, that doesn't go on Lucas. That goes on, what are the coaches doing that are allowing guys that are technically still in a playoff hunt in a way that the Royals really aren't to play like that? Meanwhile, the Royals got him out because they played smart, sharp baseball on that play. They were prepared and they executed. And that's what a team looks like when the manager still got them all invested in whatever's going on, even though the season is over.
Yeah. And I think that's something that I've heard a lot of people talk about. I've seen some Spotify comments about it as well. Like, hey, we could have a lot of gripes with this Royals season right now, but it feels like since the All-Star break, like the guys have come to play night in and night out. Like I remember this spring, there were a few games where I'm just like, y'all don't look like you want to be here. And I get it. Like it's rough, but you kind of want to be here, or you kind of gotta want to be here.
I still kind of wonder how many of them were playing hurt. And we're like, I don't want to be here because I really hurt.
It's really painful. Help me. But right now,
I still can't get over how much better Vinny Pasquantino looks since coming back from that hamate injury. We were like, I don't know how he's not going to have power, but maybe he'll do other things well. And he's just doing everything well.
He is. He hasn't struck out in 38 plate appearances.
And he's walked several times.
Yes.
Yeah, he looks like a completely different guy from who he was at the start of the season. It's crazy. He had to have been hurt.
Had to have been. I want to devote a little bit of time to this. We got to talk about the CBA proposal, man. This came down this afternoon. So, there's still plenty of parsing to be done about this. But MLB made another approach to the MLBPA today. Of course, contingent upon the union accepting the salary cap system that MLB proposed back in May.
Yeah, that's the starting point for every negotiation happening right now.
Correct, which the union has said multiple times they will not be accepting. So maybe they're putting the cart before the horse. But there's like a lot of little things in here that are just like, what the hell? Why? Like, why?
First, I do want to push back on putting the cart before the horse a little bit and say that you have to still throw the rest of the stuff out there so that whenever you finally come to an agreement on whether or not you're going to have a salary cap, you've got everything in place. So you don't have to start from scratch from there.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I think that's a good point. I didn't think about that. Thank you, Jeremy.
Yeah.
I don't even know where to start here. So one thing that definitely kind of tossed me asunder is free agent eligible players would be limited to deals of $265 million and 6 years in length.
Mm-hmm.
I I get it. That's with the cap and things like that, but I fully feel that if teams want to give out these mega contracts and take up a good chunk of their cap with one player, I think they should be allowed to.
That specific thing goes back to I saw an argument somewhere and I was like, yep, that's exactly what this is. MLB is looking around at the other major sports leagues in America and saying, what are the least employee friendly options we could take? Because that's not in all of them. The NFL doesn't have a limit on any contract lengths or amounts. They have the salary cap, but they don't have any of that stuff. Now, I believe the NBA has a limit on the amount you can pay a player,
They do,
and
yeah.
I believe they're stealing that from them. The NHL might have it too. I follow the NHL even less than I follow the NBA, and I could not tell you the last time I saw a second of NBA action.
Fair enough.
My feed has NBA fans in it, and it doesn't have NHL fans in it. Sorry. Which is funny because my real life friends some of them are NHL fans, but they just watch the sport. They don't follow the business stuff.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So that's what that looks like to me is MLB is just like, can we just take the worst of all of these and put it in a single stinky package and get the players to agree to it? And the answer, I almost have to think that MLB is just like, we're gonna make the worst proposals we could think of, the least likely proposals to be accepted we could think of, so that we could blame the players when they just outright say no to these things, because there's not even a good place to negotiate on that. And so you just say no to it, and then the MLB goes out to the public and says, well, we gave them a proposal, they didn't even counter, they just said no. But then also, because part of the way union negotiations work is that you have to be able to show meaningful progress, or you could the union can sue.
Mm.
And I don't know if it works the other way around, but I know the union can sue the company if the company is not making meaningful negotiating progress. So if you put in all of your furthest ridiculous points, you have a lot more room to move forward without going anywhere near what the other side wants.
Okay. That makes sense. That makes sense. And also, so the clock is ticking on this. The current CBA expires December 2026.
And the players
Go
will
ahead.
be immediately locked out. It will not be a strike. It will be instigated by the owners. The owners could allow things to continue. They won't, because they're scared the players would strike if they could play the next season operating under the current CBA's terms while they negotiate the next CBA. That could happen. The owners will not allow it because they're afraid that if negotiations break down, players will strike, and they feel like they have more control if they lock the players out. So if baseball doesn't start when they said it was going to start, when they released that schedule a couple of weeks ago, that's not on the players, that's on the owners. I cannot make that more clear. People will say it's a strike, and they'll be like, well, it's the same thing, it doesn't matter. It does matter who is making the decision.
Yeah, it does. And so there's some, the MLB has previously proposed draft changes and cutting a level of minor league baseball. So like there's some other trickle down effects of this as well. Like one thing that really stood out to me is MLB would drop the period by 1 year for having to protect a player from the Rule 5 draft to the 4th draft for players who signed their initial contract under age 20. So, international guys, prep guys, and they would reduce it to 3 for those 20 and over at the time of their first deal.
And it's currently 5 and 4.
I think it's 5 and 6. I would have to double check.
Okay, so it's they're saying you could force the team to put you on the big league or the 40-man roster sooner.
Yeah. But also with that, the team, let's say you pick up a player in the Rule 5 draft, you would
Mhm.
be allowed to be optioned off of the 26-man roster. So under the current rule, a selected player must be offered back to the former team before he can be assigned to the minors.
So I think I also see a pattern where MLB is trying to put the young guys against the major league guys, the well-paid guys, because they've also talked about potentially cutting, allowing you to reach free agency a year earlier. Um, and so they're saying, "We're just gonna cut the big guy salaries. Most of you aren't gonna get this much anyway. And, but we'll give you an opportunity to reach free agency or to get paid in whatever multiple ways sooner." Honestly, that's smart negotiating by MLB.
Yeah, it is because here's the thing. You can let's lump all the 2026 MLB players into one thing. How many of those are actually on a multi-year deal after they reached free agency? Not like I'm not saying it's minuscule, but it's certainly not the majority, right? A majority of these guys are under team control, and the idea behind the salary floor is that you would raise the minimum amount that a player is paid.
Yeah,
So,
what you see what you just to reiterate what you said so that it makes sense in my head. These guys, you see guys like Nick Lofton or Kyle Isbell will their play out their rookie deal and go through their arbitration years, and then it's really hard for them to find jobs, period, because everyone's like, "Well, I'd rather have a younger guy doing that I pay less. I have to pay you a certain amount." And of course, they only right the way things are, only the guys who are the best players get good chunks of change anyway.
yeah.
And they just keep churning through these younger players at faster and faster rates. It seems like a lot of guys just don't even get all the way through arbitration either.
No, no. The average playing career for an MLB player is just north of 5 years. So, like, an average guy is going to go to arbitration once, maybe twice,
Mhm.
but arbitration 3, free agency, that
That you don't
most
make your real money till ARB3.
yeah, exactly. Another thing that really stood out to me about this proposal, and I'm just gonna read this verbatim because it's a little confusing. Option and injured list periods would be changed from 10 days to 1 week for position players and from
Mhm.
15 days to 2 weeks for pitchers, but those periods would start with the first full week after a player goes on the IL. So, for instance, a pitcher going on the IL or optioned on a Wednesday plus an additional 14 days.
I
Yeah,
don't even understand the purpose. What
I
is
don't
the
understand the purpose
purpose?
either. I don't
Like,
either.
what are you trying to accomplish with that change?
So here's
That's just
the
adding uncertainty to things.
so here's another trend in this proposal, right? Because you go look at the headlines, and a lot of the headlines I've seen so far have been focusing on, hey, MLB wants to limit when guys can sign or be traded in the
Mhm.
offseason, and they want to
That was the
try
big
and
one I
do
was waiting to talk about, yeah.
yeah, but before we talk about it, I want to say a lot of these proposals feel like they are based around a calendar idea, right? Like they are, I think they're trying to mimic some of the things that we will see with the NFL with more, what's it called? Like more dedicated fans, if that makes sense, where
It
there are
makes
certain spots on the calendar that you could dedicate to, okay, I know something's going to happen today.
it makes more sense in the NFL where you play once a week for things to be organized by weeks instead of by days.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't make sense in MLB.
No, it does not. So, but let's not get too far away from that free agency thing. So, Major League Baseball has proposed limiting free agent signings to several weeks in December and then from early February on each offseason, along with a trade ban during the gap in between, a plan aimed at creating more of an offseason transaction flurry similar to those in the NFL and the NBA. How do you feel about that?
Okay, so the argument is that they want to create a flurry. You know what else it does, Jacob?
What's that?
Makes it more dangerous to not sign a deal.
Yeah.
You don't sign in that December window, Well, now you're not getting signed till February. Maybe they signed somebody else. Maybe something else happened, and suddenly you have fewer suitors than before in a way that could be much more abrupt than otherwise. Like maybe a bunch of guys sign on that last day of that period and you go, oops, I didn't end up with a chair because before it would have been, a guy here, a guy there, a guy here, and I could have gone, oh, the chairs are running out. I better go ahead and take a deal now. And instead, now you're going the last day, oh, I didn't take a deal, and now there is no deal. The chairs did
Yeah.
run out. And so there's a lot more danger in not just taking whatever offer you can find instead of negotiating. So MLB says it's to create a flurry, but even if it resulted in that, and I'm not sure it would necessarily, it would also probably depress salaries in a real way. So I can't see the MLBPA going for that. I also think it's stupid because, the NFL gets the flurry of free agents and it's fun, but you also see signings and trades after that flurry all throughout their offseason, and you can still be talking about the NFL. We're
Yeah.
not going to have a dang single thing to say in January if they get their way here.
Yeah. And
That- That's not good for baseball. It's not good for me. It's definitely not good for baseball.
So some specific dates. So the idea is that right now players can become free agents starting the day after the World Series, but there's that quiet period until the 5th day after the World Series ends. Now, under this proposal, MLB would extend that quiet period until noon on the Monday of the winter meetings, usually held in early December. It would allow negotiations during the quiet period, but no contracts to be finalized. Free agents can sign through 5 p.m. Eastern on December 21st, but wouldn't be allowed to until noon Eastern on the first Monday in February. So about a month and a half of no free agency, no trades, and it's right before spring training. Like you got to remember, pitchers and catchers are reporting in like that second week of February.
Right, and you don't wanna be the guy signing the contract the week before spring training opens because then teams look at you and go, "Well, how hard did you work out? We weren't really in contact with you," and stuff like that. Man, I hate everything about this. It
Yeah,
doesn't the silly thing is, like, the NFL, and I'm not sure about the other leagues. One of the reasons the NFL does things the way they do them is because you're technically not allowed to negotiate before that day. Now, obviously they do, or else these guys wouldn't immediately sign, just like in MLB with the
with
international
quiet.
free
Yeah,
agent. But you're not supposed to, and it limits how things can work. Maybe in a bad way for the players. Maybe this is still better for the players, but it just, I guess if you can still negotiate with teams in the down periods, then yeah, you get a flurry of transactions, but they've all been negotiated for weeks. We could have known about it for weeks. And then you also get, I don't know if you remember this story, Jacob, from a few years ago. The Chiefs were set to sign, I cannot remember his name, a former Steelers receiver. They had him in the building. They reported they leaked that he was signed, and then he went to Denver and signed with the Broncos instead. And I feel like that sort of thing would become way more common, where a guy would negotiate with a team and be like, "Yeah, I'll take that deal." And then another team comes along right before the deadline comes to where they could sign again, and they go, "Oh, you're going to give me 5 million more? I'll sign with you."
yeah.
And boy, I mean, that's better for players, but it's tough to be a fan when that kind of thing happens. And
Also,
you think that teams wouldn't leak? Like, we have an agreement where we're gonna sign this guy as soon as the period's up. Think that wouldn't
exactly.
happen if teams or
No,
agents or
it
somebody
would.
wouldn't leak that? It would absolutely leak.
Exactly. So, and here's the thing. It would be a prohibition of trades. It would be a prohibition of free agent signings, of player additions. It's not, notably to me, it's not prohibiting player subtractions. It is not saying, hey, you can't cut guys off of the 40-man roster. You can't cut guys from your organization, which, baseball, usually there's a corresponding move, right? But it stood out to me that is not allowed, that you are allowed to put players out on the street. And like, hey, some of these guys, they would be going into it with a ticking clock, because like, let's say they got a safe 40-man spot for that first free agency period. Well, if you cut them in the middle of January, like, oh shoot, I wasn't planning on being in this spot. I haven't talked to anyone. I haven't negotiated with anyone. I just bought a house.
Yeah.
So that's definitely stood out to me. It feels gross. It feels icky. This is the side of baseball. I love numbers. I really do. This is the side of baseball that I don't like.
Yeah, I don't see a true benefit here. The only positive that I can see is you get a flurry of signings and trades at the beginning of each period that have been negotiated before that period, but it's so artificial, and I don't know that you actually get a huge flurry, because it's not like guys are signing right at the front of free agency now. They'd still be trying to negotiate all through the window. You might just end up with a lot of guys not signing until February anymore.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
is that what you want? Does that make the sport better?
No,
I
I don't
don't
think
think
so.
so.
Nope. All this aside, I do have one. I just want to get on my soapbox for 1 second about the labor negotiations. For they're so like, this is going to affect tens of thousands of people, right? Like, this is we're looking at ripple effects here. This is all between the owners and the union. Those are the two parties, right? But they have ripple effects. There are people around baseball who are going to be affected by it. And like right now, I'm getting out of the Navy in November. I'm graduating from Syracuse this year. But I have consistently heard over the years, since I have been serious about wanting to get a job in baseball, is one of the best things you could do is go to the winter meetings, is go and get the resources there, go network there, go rub elbows and things like that. And if the lockout happens, one of the first things on the baseball calendar that goes away is the winter meetings.
Oof.
Yeah, and
That
it's
sucks.
out, and
Terrible
it
timing for
does.
you.
Yeah, it's pretty bad timing, and it makes me think about, like, okay, I wonder how many hiring cycles have been normal since COVID. Because you had COVID, you missed out on that, and then you had another labor negotiation shortly after things felt like they got to be normal. And several parts of the world still feel off kilter post pandemic, and I wonder how much baseball has been affected by it. So this is my little ant's plea. If we can avoid a lockout for the
And we're
sake of
not
it.
gonna avoid a
No,
lockout.
no, we're not. I
Sorry.
would greatly appreciate it. I really would. It's not gonna happen, but I would appreciate it at least. Jeremy, I'm seeing the clock here. I figure we got one more episode before the rosters expand, so I would say
Mhm.
let's talk about that next episode. Sound good to you?
Yep, sounds good.
All right, folks, make sure you follow and subscribe so you don't miss that episode. And we're talking about like what we hear from you. A lot of these things, me and Jeremy, we're not in Kansas City proper. We're not in Kansas or Missouri even, but we like to keep a finger on the
Or the
pulse there,
Midwest.
or the Midwest period. That's why I like having these East Coast road trips so much, man. It's really nice. It really
It is.
is. But I say all that to, like, a lot of these things we hear from you, and we take that with a good bit of weight. Like, there are folks in our Spotify comment section who have been there for years, and it's really good. And of course, we still look on royalsreview.com for the comments there. But if you hit us up on social media, or if you comment on Spotify, we're taking those things with a pretty big, not grain of salt, but we take it into consideration highly, is what I would say.
Yeah.
All right, Jeremy, you got to what?
I just said, yeah.
Oh, okay. I heard the sigh, and I was just like, Jeremy, if you tell me another celebrity just died, I might lose it.
Nope. Nope. 3 so far this week. That's enough.
Yeah, that it is. Jeremy,
2 really, really good ones.
yeah,
And then
man.
one I didn't know as well, but he's Optimus Prime.
For nearly 50 years, he was Optimus Prime.
Yeah.
This is a long run.
Iconic voice.
Yeah, man. Truth be told, I don't, the celebrities dying, never. I think the last one who was like, I could really understand The ripple effect was Robin Williams.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh dang it, man. Dolly. Whew.
Yeah,
That was
Tim
tough.
Curry hit me even harder than Dolly, but they're both hard. The first one I can remember that really got me was Alan Rickman.
Yes. That was another good one. Well,
My
impactful one.
my favorite angel from Dogma.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah,
Okay. Well, on that sobering note,
I
Jeremy,
should watch that again.
I always tell folks who can partake in certain libations, like, hey, partake in that libation and go watch 9 to 5 with Dolly Parton, because like that's a crux of the plot, is that they partake in that. And I definitely think that would make for a fun viewing experience in my mind.
Sure. And then if you need some Tim Curry, Clue. Clue's my call. I know a
Yes.
lot of people will say
Nice.
Rocky Horror Picture Show, and he's done. There ain't a movie Tim Curry's ever been in where Tim Curry wasn't amazing. Let's be clear. But
Yeah.
Clue's up there for me. McHale's Navy is also one of my favorites. But I will go ahead and my review now, or else we might never get out of here. So I just finished last night season 3 of Shrinking, which is an Apple TV show starring Jason Segel and Harrison Ford. Gosh, I love that show. They finished their first 3-season arc, which is all about grief and dealing with death. So I guess that's a good thing to have right now. And we've gotten to this 3rd season of Shrinking now. And I feel like the quippiness has overcome the reality just a little bit. Not in a way that I dislike the show, but there were times when I was watching this season where I was like, okay, y'all, that's not how a human talks. And I know that people have complained about the quippiness in media for a long time. It's never bothered me, but it did get to me a little bit this season. I was still pleased to hear that they're going to do a 2-year time jump and bring the show back for a 4th season and start some sort of new emotional arc. So I'm excited to see where they go next. I've really enjoyed the series. I don't know. Apple almost never misses, and it's a lot of fun. So I hope you'll all give it a shot. Harrison Ford, I think honestly it might be some of his best work in Shrinking that I've ever seen. I've seen a lot of Harrison Ford, but that might be my favorite.
Okay. Yeah, Harrison Ford has been he's been keeping at it even though he gets up there in age. All right, so my review today is going to be over a new flavor of Alani energy drink that I tried. So their fall flavor, Witch's Brew, has been it's wildly popular, right? Just selling out in stores left and right. And this year they packaged it with another flavor called Ruby Apple, like a candied apple, and something called a potion pack. Basically, you get 6 of each in this little box. And holy smokes, I like that candied apple flavor a lot. It is definitely worth checking out. I know folks are Alani is something I got to be in the mood for when it comes to energy drinks, but that one is just like, yeah, it's pretty delicious. So if you haven't tried it yet, go and check it out, I would say.
I had a candy apple moonshine
Ooh,
back in the day that I thought was really good.
that does sound good.
I don't
I
remember
like that.
anything about it. I know I bought a bottle. I went to a tasting and then I bought a bottle because I liked it so much. The only bottle of alcohol I've ever purchased. And I don't know what happened to it. I don't think I ever drank it. I think I just lost it.
Yikes. Yikes.
That's why I don't buy booze.
There you go, because you forget where you put it. All right, folks, that's going to do it for today's episode of the Royals Rundown Podcast. We appreciate you sticking around with us. Make sure you follow or subscribe to the podcast wherever you're currently listening at, or you can just go check out each episode and all the great work going on over at royalsreview.com. I am Jake Milham. They're Jeremy Greco. Thank you so much for joining us, and until next time, go Royals!
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.